China's economy has grown a lot over the past few decades, transforming from a largely agrarian society into a global economic powerhouse. This rapid development has been nothing short of extraordinary, capturing the attention of the world. It went from a poor country to a really strong country in a short time. The transformation is evident when we look at the historical footage of rural China, where life was simple and resources were scarce. Old photographs of Chinese villages show a stark contrast to the bustling urban centers we see today. The time-lapse of urbanization in China is a testament to the country's relentless drive towards modernization. This happened because millions of Chinese people worked really hard. The backbone of this economic miracle has been the tireless efforts of its workforce. Workers in factory assembly lines, laborers in construction sites, and the crowded factory floors in cities like Shenzhen all paint a picture of a nation driven by the sheer will and determination of its people. They worked in factories and construction, making things for everyone. From assembling electronics to building skyscrapers and working in textile factories, these workers have been the unsung heroes behind China's meteoric rise. Their contributions have not only fueled domestic growth, but have also made China a critical player in the global supply chain. But this quick growth had a bad side. The relentless pace of development came at a significant human cost. Overworked factory employees, tired construction workers taking brief moments of respite, and factory workers looking fatigued are common sights. The physical and emotional toll on these workers has been immense. Sometimes people cared more about making money than treating workers fairly. In the race to maximize profits, the well-being of workers was often overlooked. Factory managers focused on discussing profits, while workers lived in crowded dormitories and assembly line workers were constantly under surveillance. The human element was frequently sacrificed for economic gains. The Chinese government wanted a strong economy more than anything else. The government's primary focus was on building a robust economy, sometimes at the expense of its workforce. Chinese government buildings and officials at press conferences often emphasized economic growth as the nation's top priority. So, some workers were treated badly, even though there were laws to protect them. Despite existing labor laws designed to protect workers, many found themselves in precarious situations. Protests by workers, factory employees with injuries, and laborers in unsafe working conditions highlighted the gap between legislation and reality. The people in charge didn't always make sure the laws were followed. The enforcement of labor laws was inconsistent, and those in power often turned a blind eye to violations. Chinese officials ignoring complaints, workers trying to file grievances, and factory workers looking frustrated were all too common. Workers had trouble speaking up for themselves. The fear of retaliation made it difficult for workers to voice their concerns. Conversations in hushed tones, laborers meeting discreetly, and employee suggestion boxes being ignored were indicative of the challenges they faced in advocating for their rights. Their stories show the problems that can happen when a country grows too quickly. The personal stories of these workers shed light on the darker side of rapid economic growth. Struggling workers, crowded factory dorms, and long, grueling shifts are stark reminders of the human cost of such rapid development. What happened to these workers reminds us that everyone deserves to be treated fairly at work. The plight of these workers serves as a powerful reminder that fair treatment in the workplace is a fundamental right. Workers holding protest signs, labor rights activists, and injured workers receiving medical attention highlight the ongoing struggle for justice and equity. These rights are important for everyone's safety and well-being. Ensuring safe working environments and the well-being of workers is not just a legal obligation, but a moral one. Happy, healthy workers and those wearing safety gear exemplify the positive outcomes of respecting labor rights. As China keeps growing, it needs to take care of its workers. As China continues its journey of growth and development, it is crucial to prioritize the welfare of its workforce. Modern, well-equipped factories, training programs for workers, and interviews with satisfied employees show the potential for a more balanced approach to economic progress. They helped make China strong, so they deserve to be protected. The workers who have contributed to China's strength and prosperity deserve recognition and protection. Celebratory footage of factory workers, group photos of smiling employees, and workers proudly displaying their products underscore the importance of valuing and safeguarding those who have been instrumental in the nation's success. China has many laws about how workers should be treated. These laws are designed to protect workers' rights and ensure fair treatment in the workplace. They cover a wide range of issues, from wages to working hours, and even safety measures. These laws seem good on paper. They are comprehensive and detailed, aiming to create a fair and just working environment for all employees. The documents outline specific regulations that employers must follow to ensure the well-being of their workers. They talk about things like how much money people should be paid, ensuring that workers receive a fair wage for their labor. This includes minimum wage laws and regulations about timely payment of salaries, how many hours they should work, setting limits on the number of hours an employee can be required to work each day and week. This is to prevent overworking and to ensure that workers have enough time to rest and recuperate. Extra pay for extra work, mandating that workers should receive additional compensation for overtime hours. This is meant to discourage employers from overburdening their employees and to reward workers for their extra effort and being safe at work. The laws include strict safety regulations to protect workers from accidents and injuries. Employers are required to provide safety gear and ensure that the workplace meets safety standards. But many workers don't experience this. Despite the comprehensive laws, the reality for many workers is quite different. They often face poor working conditions, long hours, and inadequate pay. The laws aren't always followed. There is a significant gap between the laws on paper and their implementation. Many employers ignore these regulations and enforcement is often weak. One big problem is that people don't check if the laws are being followed enough. Labor inspections are infrequent, and when they do occur, they are often not thorough. This lack of oversight allows employers to violate labor laws without facing consequences. Sometimes people break the law because they won't get in much trouble. The penalties for violating labor laws are often not severe enough to deter employers from mistreating their workers. This creates an environment where exploitation can thrive. This means some bosses think they can treat workers badly without any consequences. They believe that they can get away with violating labor laws because the chances of being caught and punished are low. Also, many workers don't know their rights. A lack of awareness about labor laws means that workers are often unaware of the protections they are entitled to. This makes it difficult for them to stand up for themselves and demand fair treatment. So it's hard for them to ask for help when they're treated unfairly. Without knowledge of their rights, workers are less likely to seek legal assistance or report violations. This perpetuates the cycle of exploitation and abuse. This means there's a big difference between what the law says and what actually happens to workers. The disparity between the written laws and the actual working conditions highlights the need for better enforcement and greater awareness of labor rights. Everyone has the right to create groups that protect workers' rights. These groups can help workers ask for better pay, benefits, and a safer workplace. But in China, the government controls the only group allowed to do this. This group often cares more about keeping things peaceful and helping the economy than protecting workers. This means workers have very few ways to complain or ask for better treatment. Without a strong group to help them, workers can be treated unfairly. They can't ask for better pay or a better workplace. This is a big problem for workers' rights in China. It means bosses have more power than workers. This makes it easy to take advantage of workers and makes the laws less effective. Section 4. JASIC workers stand up, a spark of resistance. In the summer of 2018, a small group of workers at the JASIC technology factory in Shenzhen got the attention of the whole country. These workers, who were part of the manufacturing sector, were tired of the poor working conditions and the lack of respect they received from their employers. They decided that enough was enough and that it was time to take a stand. Their actions would soon resonate far beyond the factory walls, capturing the attention of people across China and even around the world. These workers wanted to start their own group to fight for things like getting paid on time and having a safe place to work. They were not asking for luxuries or special treatment. They simply wanted what they believed to be basic human rights. They wanted to ensure that their hard work was recognized and that they were compensated fairly and treated with dignity. This desire for fairness and justice was the spark that ignited their resistance. But the police stopped them quickly. The authorities were swift in their response, deploying police forces to break up the gatherings and detain the workers. The government viewed this burgeoning movement as a potential threat to social stability and acted decisively to quash it. The sight of police officers arriving at the factory and detaining workers was a stark reminder of the challenges faced by those who dare to stand up for their rights in an authoritarian regime. They arrested many workers and people who supported them, saying they were causing trouble. The authorities labeled these brave individuals as troublemakers and agitators, attempting to discredit their cause and justify the harsh crackdown. Friends, family members, and even strangers who showed solidarity with the workers were not spared. The widespread arrests sent a chilling message to anyone considering similar actions. Dissent would not be tolerated. Even though the workers didn't get what they wanted, what they did was important for a few reasons. Their actions, though ultimately unsuccessful in achieving immediate change, were significant in several ways. They demonstrated the power of collective action and the importance of standing up for one's rights, even in the face of overwhelming opposition. The determination and solidarity shown by these workers inspired others and highlighted the ongoing struggles faced by laborers in China. First, it showed that Chinese workers, especially young and educated ones, are unhappy with being treated unfairly. This discontent is not limited to older, less educated workers, but extends to the younger generation, who are more aware of their rights and more willing to demand better treatment. The JASIC workers' actions highlighted a growing sense of dissatisfaction among young, educated Chinese workers, who are increasingly unwilling to accept poor working conditions and unfair treatment. Second, many people supported the workers, including students, smart people, and people who fight for workers' rights. The movement garnered widespread support from various segments of society, including university students, intellectuals, and human rights activists. These supporters recognized the broader implications of the workers' struggle and joined in solidarity, amplifying their voices and bringing greater attention to their cause. The involvement of such diverse groups underscored the widespread nature of the discontent and the desire for change. Lastly, it showed that the government is scared of workers joining together to ask for better treatment. The authorities' harsh response revealed their fear of collective action and the potential for such movements to challenge their control. The government's efforts to suppress the JASIC workers' movement were a clear indication of their concern about the growing unrest among the labor force and the possibility of it spreading to other sectors. They saw this as a threat to their control. The government's heavy-handed tactics were aimed at maintaining their grip on power and preventing any challenges to their authority. The JASIC workers' struggle, though ultimately suppressed, served as a powerful reminder of the ongoing fight for labor rights and the resilience of those who dare to stand up against injustice. Section 5. Beyond Factory Walls, Labor Exploitation in Beijing. We often hear about factory workers in southern China having problems, but workers in other jobs and places are treated badly too. In Beijing, workers who build tall buildings and work in restaurants and stores often don't get paid all their money, work in unsafe places, and are treated differently because of who they are. These workers, who often come from poor areas, don't know their rights or are too scared to complain. They work long hours for very little money and live in small, dirty places. This shows that workers all over China are treated badly, not just in factories. This means that all workers in China need to be treated fairly, no matter what job they do or where they live.